James Green on the other side there.
3rd of January, this time.
Looking in great shape and on form, and, obviously had a good festive period.
Yeah, well, I don't put on weight. There's the one advantage. Anyway, not yet, anyway.
Now then, turning to matters media watch.
Yes.
The US media's let loose on Donald Trump for that, dangerous saber rattling against North Korea.
That's it. So they've all let loose on him. Jimmy Kimmel goes after Maniac Trump for bragging about who has a bigger button. That's the headline in the Daily Beast. You're seeing a lot of that across the media. This is Brian Klaas, a political analyst who has written a piece for CNN's website, so a similar kind of reading of things here. It's impossible to read Trump's tweets yesterday and think that the world's most powerful country is being led by a stable, rational individual. These were the tweets basically saying, my button is bigger than your button. That's not even much of a paraphrase. That's kind of what he said. This is the cartoon by Chapat from the New York Times. And his Twitter use the whole way along has had people worried because he fires off these missiles quite, what would you say, recklessly at times.
Well, my other half was telling me that if you watch what Fox News do and watch when he tweets, when there's an item on Fox News, he tweets on that subject and it goes that way. So he's watching Fox News all the time and tweeting about it. So the tweet button almost corresponds to exactly how he reacts.
It is timed, and of course what worries people is that erratic behaviour could be sort of shifted over to another button.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've got lots of that sort of imagery across social media sort of depicting him as a very unstable. This is the Hillary Clinton supporting brigade who are still unhappy about that whole email thing and are worried that, it could see people having regrets inside nuclear bunkers. For fans of the Father Ted series, there's that infamous scene with the button making a return there as well. Do not press it. So you can see the tone of things. And just to call things as they are, Mark, the phallic symbolism, imagery and rhetoric of nuclear missile arsenals is a reminder that toxic masculinity is its own weapon of mass destruction. So some people seeing in Trump's language and whatnot a sign of a certain mentality that is actually somewhat dangerous vis-a-vis stability.
No references to his small hands either.
No.
Those who are defending Trump say his strategy may be bearing fruit. I'd be interested to see how they're saying this, but go ahead.
Well, some have said, listen, these tweets have actually, at least in part, coincided with some first kind of overtures from there was that phone call we were talking about it earlier today between the North and the South, proposed by the North. Apparently this is how the South Koreans received that phone call. It all seems very antiquated, but perhaps they have to match whatever systems they have in the North. And by the way, if the phone call had come from the South to the North, the red phone would have been used. So it kind of reminds me of those tin can kind of devices you would have had back in the day, but
is this serious?
Apparently, yeah. This is Seoul released this as an image of what went on. Now, what I think is interesting here is, I think it's one of the more interesting parts of the analysis that I've read today. This is what deterrence looks like. Now, this is an article in The Atlantic by Yuri Friedland, wrote this, and he says, this whole my nuclear button is bigger than your nuclear button. That's actually kind of what nuclear deterrence is. Trump's language was just so crude and crass that people were sort of doubly struck by that. But as Yuri Friedman says in this piece, Trump's nuclear language is crude, but the theory behind it has been the same throughout the atomic age. It is a case of, I've got more nukes than you, my arsenal is bigger than yours, whatever. It's kind of chastening to realise that that's the world we're living in, but there you go.
It just seems so simplistic and so childish, doesn't it, the whole thing? But obviously the possible, end game could be, the end of us, couldn't it?
Indeed, that's it. Now, there's one final thing that I'd like to share. I thought this was one of the more...
Take your time,
this was from a Harvard law professor, Robert Fisher, back in 1981. Now, he proposed a kind of a novel enough. Let's look at the highlighted text here. Put the needed code number in a little capsule, then implant that capsule right next to the heart of a volunteer. Now, that volunteer could be a presidential aide, for example. The volunteer would carry with him a big, heavy butcher knife as he accompanied the president. If ever the president wanted to fire a nuclear weapon, the only way he could do so would be for him first, with his own hands, to kill one human being. He has to look at someone and realise what death is, what an innocent death is. So this is actually something that was seriously proposed by a Harvard law professor. It sounds preposterous, but actually when you think about it, it's just one way of alerting a president to the reality of what
completely, because these people become detached from what they're doing. We've seen that with the way wars have been waged. We've seen that with how campaigns have been waged in different countries, and the death tolls just become numbers.
That's it.
But when you see the blood,
that's it.
Smell the blood.
Right.
And have that on your hand. That's the best way, isn't it?
Unfortunately, it's not going to happen, though.
Okay, well, let's hope we never get there.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
Actually, fortunately, let's just leave fortunate.
Let's hope we never get there. James, thank you very much indeed. James from Media Watch, Charles with Business, thank you so very much indeed. Great to see you. And thank you for watching as well. Stay with us. More to come here, live from Paris.